What's your name?
Bray.
Bray?
Yeah.
B-R-A-Y?
A-E.
B-R-A-E? Is that short, or is that the whole?
It's a town in Ireland I was named after.
Yeah? All right, Bray. Here you go. You ready?
No.
Explain that. Combined SAT scores. Look who has the lowest scores. Black people. One, and then where we're going to go. Second lowest is going to be American Indian. No, it's going to be Mexican American, Puerto Rican.
Is this with or without the people that cheat?
What's that? What's that?
Is this with or without the people that cheat on the SATs?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Well, it does.
Wait.
It totally does.
What's your question?
People cheat on the SATs.
Oh my God. Yeah, I got
Yo.
you. No, leave the cheating out. Why do Asians have the highest score than white people, and why do black people have the lowest score? If you were looking at that with your friends and just going like, yeah, what's that all about? What would you say? Only you're saying it in front of a whole class.
I know that when I visited China, the girl I stayed with, she said her parents put a lot more pressure on her than to study.
Okay.
Might be a factor, like how much pressure their parents put on them to study, or like how much they actually do like SAT prep or anything like that.
So how much
they can afford SAT prep.
Okay. So the pressure people put on studying, the ability to pay for SAT prep courses. So what else? So how do you explain black people? Because the SAT is about the best measure. It's really the closest measure to IQ that everybody uses. It's not a measure.
Yeah, but not
of IQ.
everyone's good at taking tests. So you're forcing kids to go in there and take tests when their skills could be inside the classroom.
Okay, so you're taking a test. Maybe you're not used to the test. You don't know the test. Okay, I got it. And maybe that's not where your skills are. Anything else?
I just think we shouldn't have standardized tests in general, but that's just my opinion.
Yes, a cop out. All right. Yeah, I agree with you.
I'm Scott. Hi.
Scott
Nice to meet
has a
you.
question.
Okay, so I hear you. I am processing what you're saying, and I just need for 1 second to just highlight. I don't think white Americans understand the socioeconomic status, and even in this conversation, we just kind of went over it. And when you talk about we've talked about multiple times where minorities are where they congregate most in inner cities, you're talking about families that honestly can't even pay enough money to have their own rent. So how are they going to pay for the SATs? And you're talking about getting back to the sports conversation, which is the question that I had before. You have athletes and they utilize sports as their only way to get out of the system that's broken and against them. And
Wait, hang on now. Hang on, Bray. I have a response to Scott here.
But my question to you would be how I understand your question being they can utilize it, but how, if you put yourself in the shoes of being in someone where your family, let's pretend that you grew up in I don't know, trailer trash, for instance, because that would be the white equivalent, I feel like. If you grew up there, your family couldn't pay for anything, you barely put food on your table, and you heard someone at the front of the classroom go, well, you can utilize other resources, there's other things, but the school system that you're in, your guidance counselors don't even promote schools. How do you go about combating that?
Okay,
how
hang
can
on.
you say that then?
All right, hang on, Bray. I'm going to challenge Scott on something here. How do you explain this?
Okay,
right?
go for it.
Half of all black people in America are middle class. Okay? So when we talk about inequality, we're really talking about the extremes. So half of all black people in America are middle class. On top of the middle class ones, black people, then you have the rich black people. And then you got poorer black people. But the fact is, most people who are really at the poor end are not even taking the SATs. So the picture, the question that you're raising, what do you do with people who live in such poor communities and they can't even afford X, Y, or Z? Well, the fact is, that's a distortion of black Americans, because the half of all black people are middle class starting with. So, and then you got the other black people above and so on. So how do you explain that?
Well, my explanation of that would be that if you look at the 1%, you look at the people who own the most money, it's not a secret that the distribution of wealth in America is swayed more towards the white having higher incomes. So
yeah, but the 1% is a small number of white people, and that doesn't explain.
I know, but you've already proven my point in previous classes where we're talking about the majority of white people are on average paid more than black people. So saying that we've already made the connection and established the fact that socioeconomic status and how much money you have plays into how well you can afford other things. So like that deconstructs that argument.
All right. Okay. Bray, do you have anything to add to that?
I do think it's really important to acknowledge like the top 1%. Like obviously with the college cheating scandal, like I don't know, they just had the money to pay their way into college. It's just not okay.
Okay. Bray, take a look at that. This is SAT scores by family income. Here's the score. Here's family income. And watch how as family income goes down, the scores go down. And who has the lowest scores? The families that are poorest. Okay? This is on average. It doesn't mean that somebody who's down here can't score really high, right, in this box, or someone in this box can't score really high, or that somebody up here scored really low. But the idea is, watch it, look at how it just falls. Okay? So now, then watch this, right? Look at, here's household income. Highest scores, Asians. Highest household income, Asians on average. This is median, by the way, so half are above, half are below. Lowest is black. Lowest is Native American, but Native American isn't on here. Then we have Hispanic, any race. Then we have all races. Then we have white. And then we have Asian. Okay? So now come back here. Who's going to have the highest scores? Right? Well, if we're going by this, it's going to be people with the highest income. So who's that? It's right here. It's Asian. So now we come back. Okay, well, it turns out Asians have the highest score. Who has the second highest score on average? White people. Oh, look at that. Let's check it out. Who has the third highest score? And then we go on down, right? And so see what happens is it's really directly related to these things. And what you were saying is really on in a sense of like it still is about schools. And you're saying it about schools. Like, well, it is. Because, look, what happens is the schools that are the poorest schools are going to have the lowest SAT scores. And the schools that are the wealthiest schools, on average, and they're wealthiest because they have higher tax brackets, right? So their families are paying more in taxes. The schools are better, the whole 9 yards. And then look at what happens. They're going to, on average, have higher SAT scores. The people with the poorest families paying the smallest amount of taxes going into the schools, and they don't have enough money to fund the schools, they're going to have the lowest SAT scores, and this is exactly what we see. And then on average, it doesn't take a lot because there are really wealthy black people and really poor white people and really wealthy black areas whose students on average score really high on the SATs, and really poor white areas whose students are like living down here, and their students on average are scoring really low on the SATs. So when we look at this, this is the average score. There are still white people who are scoring way down here. And down here, American Indian or Asian or black or Puerto Rican or Mexican American, there's still people who are scoring way out here. This is average. So, that's where we're at.